Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome to our first Planning Board meeting of the new year. So at this time, it's 7:01 p.m. I'm calling the Hamilton Planning Board meeting to order. The first order of business is to take roll. We do have an associate member appearing by Zoom, so I do have to do that. And I note also that this meeting is being recorded. So when I call your name, would you please indicate that you're present? Pat Norton?
Present.
Jonathan Poor?
Jonathan Poor, present.
Bill Wheaton?
Bill Wheaton, present.
Emil Dahlquist?
Emil Dahlquist, present.
Darcy Dale?
Darcy Dale, present.
Matt Hamill?
Matt Hamill, present.
And Jeff Austin?
Jeff Austin, present.
And Marnie Crouch, present. And I believe Beth Herr is intending to join us. She might just be a little late. So the first item on our agenda is a site plan and a stormwater management permit application. So Mark, could you please read the public notice for the stormwater management permit application?
Sure. The Hamilton Planning Board will hold a public hearing to review a site plan review and stormwater management permit application pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and the Hamilton zoning bylaw, Section 10.6, and general bylaws, Section 29, on January 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m. at the Hamilton Wenham Library, 14 Union Street in Hamilton, Massachusetts. The applicant, Myopia Hunt Club, proposes to construct an 11,128 square foot maintenance facility with associated storage, fuel bay, and garage facilities to service the existing country club and hunt club at 435 Bay Road, Assessors Map 56, Lot 12, zoned R1B. Anyone wishing to speak on the matter is invited to attend the hearing. The application and associated materials are on file and available for review electronically or in person by contacting the Hamilton Planning Department at 978-626-5252 or planning@hamiltonma.gov.
Yes. Is there someone here from the Myopia Hunt Club who wishes to make a presentation?
Yes, my name's Anthony Donato from Hancock Associates, the civil engineer of the project, relating to the site stormwater and civil aspects. And with me is Rob Olson from Olson Architects, the architect, and Jonathan Wilbur, who's the facilities director at the Myopia Hunt Club. We do have a slide presentation. Okay, you go to the next plan. So,
1 second.
yeah, sure. Thank you, Mark. If you could go to the next slide, please. Here's an overview of the site. It's over 200 acres. As you can see, we've highlighted the locus where the facilities currently exist and where the new maintenance facility is going to be. As you can see, it's in the central part of the site, not visible from any of the abutters or the road. And if you could go to the next slide, Rob Olson can kind of go over the structure a little bit, and I can come back and talk about the site.
It's coming.
So just to introduce the project, the purpose of this project is to consolidate the club's maintenance operations, which are currently headquartered in a brick building right here, where there are offices and a shop, to take all of those and integrate them into one facility. The proposal is to build this maintenance building here. The purpose of it will be to take all of the equipment, which is currently stored outside, and put it under cover, which will be a big improvement in operations. That permits the club to consolidate the site, create a circumferential circulation pattern for deliveries and movement, and to relocate the Huntsman House, which is located here, to a new position north of the site where it's allied with the equestrian facility So in other words, to move the residential activity out from the middle of maintenance. There are some significant environmental improvements as a result of doing this, which is part of the purpose of the project. One is to remove an existing underground storage tank, which is in the front of the building here, existing. It's for the storage of fuels, gasoline and diesel. To remove that facility and place it above ground in a fire-rated above-ground tank with containment and proper dispensing on a containment slab with fire protection. We're going to take that facility and we're going to move it here where it's underneath a canopy for the fueling of vehicles. The other big improvement in this building is we're taking all of the liquid fertilizer and pesticide storage and consolidating it in one place, close to where it's used and diluted for use on the golf course. So those activities are currently east of the building here. They're going to be incorporated in a new environmental center, which is at the end of the building here, which will have dedicated storage for pesticides, fertilizers, all with sumps for containment, an area for filling vehicles, for using it on the golf course, and a recycling system, which is located in the building here, which will recycle any water used to wash down vehicles, any water, excess water that's used for the dilution of fertilizers. And if there is any kind of spill that occurs anywhere in this area or in the wash down here, it all flows into a sump where it can be contained and everything recycled. That's sort of standard, that's a standard type of environmental treatment for handling these materials. And being able to incorporate this in the building is a big improvement in the site overall. So interior storage of equipment, above grade, proper management of fuels, improved handling and management of fertilizers and pesticides. And the new facility will have full fire protection system as well as fire alarm. The other thing that, main purpose of this project is to house all of this activity in a site design which is compatible with the surroundings and buffered from the golf course. This is very far away from any public way, and it's not viewable from a public way or in a butter's house. But nevertheless, the character of the landscape and the golf course is extremely important, the members' enjoyment of the club. So the building has been placed behind the existing brick building where it's buffered from the surrounding golf course by existing planted boundary along the golf course, which we're augmenting. The equestrian house has moved out the frame, the area at the north part of the site. And again, site circulation is designed to be confined to this site in one circumferential pattern. We've reviewed this with the fire department. It meets their requirements for fire access. And we can drive vehicles in here, do deliveries, pick things up, and not impact the operations of the club. So we can have the next slide. Maybe we can just show some of the enlarged plans of the building, really showing these for programmatic purposes. This is a floor plan of the building, which, and Tony will get back to the storm drainage when this pops up, when we get to that. So here you can see more. Whoops, that's the last slide. Go to the next one. Perfect. So this just shows a little more detail of how the building is organized with storage, cold storage equipment, unheated storage equipment here. The environmental center is here, contained by a mezzanine and insulated space and heated space. The washdown for vehicles is through this covered bay with a sump here, and the fueling and containment slab is there. Could we go to the next slide? So this is a little different from, if you're looking at what we submitted last year to you for the planning board, there's one change in this project, which you'll see on this plan. There were two dormers here, which were there for reasons of aesthetics and also for get a little extra head height. We've just bid the project and we can't really afford to do those, so we've taken them off and we want to update the plans, and we've updated the views. So if you're looking at the old set, you're going to see something that's just modestly different. So we can go to the next slide. This is the elevation of the building. It's a very simple building. It has a masonry base. It has a metal siding walls. It's basically a systems building. It's been masked with the canopy at one end here, where we drop down and reduce the scale. One thing about the building is everything is essentially one color, which is, when you're dealing with a building like with that, it's an achievement. Because we have to work in the system that we have. It's really an industrial building, which we've masked to be compatible with the campus. We can go to the next slide. So this is, I'll take you just on a tour around the building so you can see its appearance and how it's designed. This view begins at the central part of the campus, at the clubhouse, on the other side of the clubhouse, where there's an oval turnaround. And this is looking at the existing brick building here, which is where the maintenance head office is, along with the shop. To the left, behind the existing trees, is the equestrian facility, and the new building is in the yard behind. We've located and masked it to sort of make it a quiet presence and screen it with the brick building. We can go to the next slide. This is just a closer view showing really the detail of the building, its repetitive nature, how its massing relates to the existing barn on the west side. We go to the next slide, please. More of the same. We can go to the next slide. This is the view from the north looking back, where you can see this is the fuel bay here, which is undercover, the washdown bay, which is undercover. The environmental center is in this bay of the building, right here, and then the cold storage piece is from this downspout all the way back, and that's the brick building. So we can go to the next slide. So this is just an overview which shows the massing of the building. It has a standing seam roof. Very straightforward. On the far side is aggregate storage for use on the golf course. And beyond that is an existing barn, which is staying. Next slide, please. So now we're going from the north side back to the south with the main building there. This is the kind of vehicle that needs access to this site for the delivery of aggregates. So it's a semi. We'll drive through the site. Next slide, please. And then this slide and the next one are just really to show the way in which the building has been designed to live within the complex of the existing maintenance facility and the equestrian facility on the other side. This is an existing buffer of trees along the third hole, which we'll reinforce and augment when we're done with construction. And then the last slide gives you an overview of how this building has been designed and massed to fit in this little complex of the small barn, the large equestrian barn, the outbuildings here, placement of the new Huntsman House, existing maintenance facility, and the new proposed building. So that's an overview of the architecture, and you want to use this? Too?
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you could go to the next slide. And I just want to point out that we did go before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a continued non-conforming use, and we were approved for that end of last year. I believe it was in November. One other thing I'd like to point out, too, is that there's not going to be any increase in employees or sewage generation from this project. There'll be some temporary extra vehicles during construction, but once construction is complete, there's no new trip generations anticipated from this project. And as Rob had stated, the new maintenance facility is in the middle, and new pavement and truck access around the new maintenance facility. We ran truck templates around it, and it can adequately drive around the site. The new road out to the relocated Huntsman House will be of gravel in nature. And if you could go to the next slide. This is the grading in our stormwater management plan. The roof water off the new building will be collected. It will be into a closed drainage system. There's a couple of new catch basin structures. There'll be 4-foot sumps and gas traps on all the catch basins. There's going to be a water quality device before it discharges to a stormwater management device, a surface pond, a grassed pond. that will control the rate and runoff, so there'll be no increase in either the rate or runoff realized post-development from pre-development conditions. It's all managed on site. There's an outflow out in the back of the site. And as I'd mentioned, other than that, there's some sewer work that we have to redo, some drain line, sewer line relocation, but there's nothing that we have to do that involves redoing of the septic system on site, the soil absorption system. If you could go to the next slide, please. And again, this is just, this is our site utility plan. You're not including the grading, and if you could go to the next slide. And I guess that's an existing conditions plan. So as Rob had stated, I mean, the site, it's basically, it's going to improve operations for the Myopia Hunt Club. It's going to be a betterment with regards to storage of chemicals inside the building, improved stormwater quality runoff from the site, and just improved operation for the club. I don't know if you have any questions regarding the presentation or the application being filed.
Are you replacing buildings? Are you removing any buildings other than moving the residential house? Are there other buildings that you're replacing?
There are several, hard to explain, improvised storage facilities, which are containers, and we're taking those out and consolidating. There's also this is actually a good plan. These two little shed rows here, those were originally built for horses stabling. We're gonna remove those, and those operations are consolidated in the equestrian barn and the pony barn over here. These are the elements we're removing on the plan. Those are really ingenious. Those are two containers with a roof built over them to park vehicles under. So one of the goals of the project is to remove those and put them in a proper facility. But other than these elements here, the shed rows, we are not removing other structures. This Huntsman House is the structure that we're gonna move to the new
No, I know.
location
Yeah.
north of the equestrian facility.
And how long do you think it will take to complete this?
We're planning, if God willing, and the planning board willing, we'd like to start in the spring, in March, sometime in March if possible, and we want to be concluded by December.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I have a question about the stormwater management. I assume that the manure from the horses, and I think they're probably stabling for 20 to 30 horses on the site, is that handled separately and trucked off to Brick Ends Farm?
Right, the manure that's generated in the barns is put into a dumpster, which is currently right in the middle here. And if we go back to the site plan, we can go back to the original plan, I'll show you the provisions for that. Actually, if you go back to like the fourth view, just scroll up. We're actually putting it in a place where it's more easily managed, but it's still gonna be the same operation in a, whoops. Yeah, if you go down. One more. Okay, to the right, underneath, right here, is where the new manure pit is. So that's gonna be a new pit for new manure to deal with that problem.
When you relocate the fuel storage facility, is there any consideration of checking for any contamination in the existing location?
Yes, that's part of the removal, although Jonathan has tested every year, tests that area, and has tested the tank, and we don't believe there's any contamination or leakage, but that's part of the removal. It's removed.
Does the state attend that?
What's that?
Does the state attend that review of the
I have to
conditions?
say that I'm not entirely sure
The
the
fire
mechanics
department, I
of
think the
that.
fire department.
Yeah, fire department.
Just the fire department, but not the DEP or something?
It doesn't require a 21E process?
I think only if there's a spill.
Yeah, I think the protocol is to sample around the tank, make sure that there are no problems. and if we're good, then.
And report it to the state, because they would take over in the
If
event
there were a problem, I guess.
if there were a
yeah.
problem. Is the tank steel? Is the tank steel?
It's a double wall fuel tank.
Oh, double wall.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
double wall fuel tank. It seems like it's in good shape, and it's more a question, it's not being moved because it's in trouble, it's being moved because there's a better way to do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So with respect to the chemicals that are used on the golf course, how will this stormwater management plan address those chemicals? Because when you wash the equipment, they will go into the stormwater pond, and so how will those chemicals be addressed so that they
I can
don't
explain.
really pollute the
Yeah, and
ground and get
actually-
into the groundwater?
The washdown could we go to the enlarged plan, which is the fourth slide from the page?
Sure.
So the way that's handled is with a separate wastewater treatment system. And right here, this is good. So this area, each one of these rectangles with the lines indicates a sump with positive flow from anywhere around it. So these are 3 to 4 inches lower than any other part around the building. So there are 4 of them. There's 2 in these rooms up here, and that's where the stored material is stored. So we don't anticipate that it's gonna be handled or opened in those rooms, but should something happen, there are large sumps built into the ground to contain any kind of spill. Outside where the washdown occurs, there's another sump here. And that sump the purpose of that sump is to contain all of the water that's used to wash down a piece of equipment, along with anything that comes off it, like grass clippings or anything like that. It goes into this sump here. This sump is connected, so it can be pumped out to this piece of equipment here, where the water that comes out of this goes through kind of a cascading system where it separates out the grass. Then it goes into this system here, which is the treatment system, where any kind of trace chemicals or anything is treated by the Carbtrol system. And that becomes water that's clean, that can be used in this operation for diluting pesticides for use on the golf course. So it's a closed system. And then the other sump, which is here, is also a protection sump. This is where the materials are diluted. This is the mixing station over here, and put into sprayers. So anything that happens in this room that lands on this floor will go to this sump, where if it's a spill, it can be retrieved and recycled. And if it's just general wastewater, it becomes part of the wastewater treatment system. I'll add that the club is also sealing this entire slab with an epoxy coating, which goes up with a hygienic base around the whole building. All the spaces in here where there's any handling of any of those materials, the floor is built in that way and reinforced, proper joints. So they're really looking to have a very proactive way of avoiding the kind of problems that concern you about that water going anywhere else.
Are you also refueling the vehicles in that washdown area?
No, the refueling is off here to the right.
So they
So
pull-
this is where the drive-up is on the containment slab, and this is where the tank is. And then this is the dispensing station for filling your vehicle.
on that side, okay. So it's
It's
separate
on the
from,
other, it's on the other side separate.
there's also like a grease trap separator type of that
Well, it's a,
thing on that side?
yeah, it's a containment slab like you'd see on any of your fuel stations around here.
And the size of the fuel tank that's above ground, how many gallons is that?
It's 1,500 gas and 1,500 diesel.
Okay, pretty small tanks.
And it's fire rated, and also has a containment for its full capacity built into the tank. So if anything should happen to the tank, all the fuel will be within the system.
Just to be clear, is it, am I correct that the under slab containers could contain the entire fuel that's in the, for example, in the building, could contain the full volume of,
They are
Those
designed
tanks?
to contain everything that's stored.
they're not,
No,
that's not a requirement, unless it's It is a requirement in some cases, but maybe not in this case.
As far as I know, it's
Like
not-
over an
It's
aquifer
not a
or something.
requirement for this kind of system.
Okay.
These materials are typically in 1 and 2 gallon jugs.
Yeah,
There's some, I think, which are in larger containers. Generally, they're handled in small
Okay.
quantities. Yeah.
Sometimes the containment in the fuel storage area needs to be sufficient to hold some amount of, like, a duration of the fire
Yeah.
suppression. Like, if the sprinklers were let go, it
yeah,
has to contain some
yeah, exactly. That's,
amount related to some period of time in which
because
you wouldn't want that.
you got doors there that, you know, if there were a massive spillage, it would go out into the general warehouse, looks like to me, but, anyway.
Does anyone else have any questions? Anyone?
Well, can I just,
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
I just got one more question. We didn't see the lighting layout, but I do have a question on the fixtures. I did notice in some of your renderings that you showed lighting fixtures mounted on the side of the building. Is that your sole lighting source then on the building?
So first of all, we want to have no uplight at all.
So you have a cutoff on all of those,
Fixture.
on each one of those?
And it has
Okay.
beam control. So the fixtures that we used they're actually Vega fixtures. They're sort of in the spot flood family, but they
Yeah.
come with beam cutoff.
Good, okay,
And the purpose of that is twofold. We don't want to have any
sure,
night splash at all. And then for the environment around the building, we want to control the views so that it's not affecting the golf course or anything.
yeah. And what's the lighting source you're using there?
They're LED.
LED, okay.
So your plan says, talks of cold storage. Is it a,
Oh, it's unheated. It should say unheated storage.
okay, so it's not like a
There's no
cold.
refrigeration. Yeah, they call it cold storage simply because we're not heating.
Because you're not heating. Were there any other, like, sustainability? You mentioned some of the features that are more efficient than what the current setup was, but there is any other, like, efficient, sustainability goals of the project as far as sourcing materials or things like that?
The building meets stretch code for energy, which for a warehouse is pretty cool, I think.
That's a building code requirement, but like,
Building code
beyond
requirement,
that, is there
right. And
any
the,
sustainability
the roof
elements?
is, the club has decided to go for a 30-year roof, which is, which in terms of replacement is a positive thing. Otherwise, the real focus of the building is managing these environmental aspects of the golf club operations.
Is it gonna be like a Butler-type building that you're like procuring, or are you gonna steel stick build the?
So it's a combination of things.
Okay.
So the basic building here is a pre-engineered metal building, so, which you're probably familiar with. These main clear span structures are rigid vents. When we get to the environmental center, which has a mezzanine above it, we're going to conventional steel so that we can do our insulation. We have, have a reasonable structural depth. And then we have conventional steel for the canopy. So the rendering that you saw reflects that design intent. So and the walls and the roof are all done with standard PEM girts. So it's a hybrid.
Thank you. Would any step to the podium, please, and identify yourself and give us your address?
Hi, my name's Kathy Lanoy, and I live at 66 Homestead Circle, so I'm directly across the marsh to the north from where this building is going to go. And I had three concerns. It all actually makes total sense to me to consolidate like this, but I have three concerns being in a butter. One has already been addressed, and that was the lighting. I'd like to hear that it's that it won't be disturbing the wetlands habitat and all that rich wildlife any more than it will need to. Another concern, though, I have are the mature trees that are there along the edge of the marsh. they actually provide a green shield for us for most of the year. But during the winter months, right now, I can see all the buildings there through the bare trees. So my hope would be that those existing trees won't be removed during construction, because if they are, it's going to take 20 years to have new trees grow and create a buffer, in which case I won't be there anymore. So I would just hope that those existing trees would stay that are along the edge of the marsh. My guess was be that they have to as a wetlands compliance. So that's one question I have. The other concern that I have is noise. There's a lot of noise actually that happens for 9 months of the year at the golf course. There's a lot of machinery that starts at 6 a.m. or earlier, which is earlier than the 7 a.m. Noise bylaw. My concern is there's going to be even more noise coming from one central building with all those garage doors going up and down and the beep, beep, beep of the trucks as they back up to get ready to start the day. I'm concerned about that as an abutter. I am an early riser. I like to be out on my deck early in the morning, and Myopia is a great neighbor with that one exception, and I'm just concerned that there'll be more noise. I don't know if that's appropriate for this meeting or not, but that is a concern that I have. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Tom Dowley. I live at 60 Margaret Road. I don't abut the property, but I can see it, and I'm across the street from Homestead Circle. But anyway, my concern, first of all, am I correct in presuming that you are moving gas that's stored underground to make it above ground fuel?
Yes.
What is the purpose of that?
It's a safer way of handling the material than putting it underground.
But we have a volunteer fire department, and I just was curious, if anything goes wrong, the susceptibility of a major fire is a lot higher than if everything's contained underground, isn't it?
Well, the tank is fire rated. It has its own containment, and it'll have its own fire protection system over it. So from that point of view, for something that might happen from dispensing fuel, I think it's much safer than what exists.
And talking with Ray, he's been like fully supporting and trying to get this done for years. Like he's been recommending to go.
So there is water down there to fight things, or what, you're not gonna have to bring in a whole new fire protection system.
It has its own chemical fire protection system.
Okay.
It's actually in the rendering if you want to see what it looks like. It's similar to what you'd see at a gas station, except it's dedicated to the tank.
Okay. Our neighborhood, I assume, I've been there for over 40 years. It's pretty quiet, it's pristine, and I just wonder how much, again, to the prior woman's comment about noise, is there going to be a constant hum? That building going to create some kind of just every night and day?
I don't know, what you mean in terms of maintenance activity?
No, just the general, it's a 12,000 square foot building. It's going to have a noise of itself at night, like, it's so quiet over there once the course settles down.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what you mean.
Just energy, like keeping the pumps
Oh,
moving.
no, that's, there's no heat in the building. The electric service for the building is actually in the maintenance facility.
Okay.
There's no transformer noise. The environmental center itself, the heat in there are just simply fan coils. I mean,
Okay.
there's really no mechanical.
It's not going to be lit up like Fenway Park at night?
No, I was
Okay.
misunderstanding you. Yeah, there's no mechanical noise because there's no mechanical
Right.
equipment.
Okay, nothing at all. There won't be anybody working on,
There's a fan inside which will blow, clear out if there's a problem with any kind of fumes or anything.
so the fire department has blessed this project from they can control, anything goes wrong, they can, with all the gas that's going to be over
Yeah,
above
we've-
ground.
We've reviewed it with,
Okay,
we reviewed
okay.
it before we even
Okay.
proposed it here.
And then I can address the noise for the equipment, so
Yeah.
the hope with the project would be to hopefully reduce the noise, because right now, we're in so many different parts of the facility, and it's so tightly packed that what you're hearing, like the backup noise and getting everything going, is kind of spread out, and it makes it difficult for us to get around. Where this is consolidated in one area, it's going to make it easy for us to maneuver out of the east side in the morning. I'm sorry, the west side in the morning. And we're also not adding any additional equipment or anything like that. Same thing, like any larger equipment, everything's going to be inside now. So the hope would be to reduce, and then to your point, like all of the trees, we're saving every big tree we can. We're not going to touch any of the trees on the marsh. And then, like,
Would it be fair to say that there will be equipment operated inside the shed that currently is outside the shed?
And that's
And
the-
therefore, the noise would actually
Exactly.
be, a little more suppressed than having all that stuff outside?
exactly. So everything is pretty much currently outside, and it's real tightly packed around that house. So we're constantly having to move 5 different pieces to get at one piece, where now it's a simple in and out. So it should help suppress a lot of that noise. And then like Tony spoke to when we're done with the project, we have a lot of big mature trees that we're going to save, and we're going to add some more landscape to this whole area because it'll kind of get it off the golf course and give us some more planting areas to also put some more mature trees in to hopefully buffer the maintenance facility.
Thank you.
My very biggest concern, though, is that big line of really old trees would be lost during the construction, and I really hope that that's not the case.
Yeah, that's not the goal. Yeah, we want to save whatever we can for the same reason. We want a buffer on the golf course for the golfers as well. So we're going to try to improve it, if anything.
And there's some pretty cool owls out there, too.
Yep.
Is anyone online who wishes to make a comment? And sir, did you? You're good. Okay, so thank you for your presentation. I'm sure in speaking with our planning director, you are aware that no member of the planning board is an engineer, at least not an engineer qualified to review your plans. So it's customary in these circumstances that the planning board engage a professional to review your work product and advise us as to whether what you have done is 100% fine, or whether the expert might have a few recommendations for the planning board and for your consideration. So I think that, Mark, have you conveyed the estimate for the engineering firm to Myopia?
I have not, I just got it today, but it's, I have a paper copy. It's a total of $6,000, $4,000 for the plan review and $2,000 for contingency. The town would typically hold that as a fund that we would, the engineer would bill the town directly, and that would come from that fund that Myopia would provide the town. And I've asked for a time estimate. I know that they'd like to get moving. So I think the review can be completed within 2 weeks. The Hancock would then have some time to review the plan, review the comments and respond to them and revise the plans if necessary. So likely one of the February meetings would be a realistic time to table the application to.
Gentlemen, is that satisfactory to you? Okay, great. So at this point, we will then consider the site plan when we do the stormwater management application.
Right, Madam Chair, we have 2 approvals, right?
Site plan and the stormwater
Site plan and
management.
stormwater. I
Right.
do feel the need for an engineering study on stormwater.
Yes.
Site plan,
No,
perhaps not.
it's not for the site
It's
plan.
not?
It's
Okay,
just for the
okay,
stormwater.
okay.
The site plan doesn't
Okay.
require that. And obviously, it's very well contained in the central part of the campus, so I don't foresee any problems with the site plan. So at this juncture, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing on the stormwater management application and simultaneously the site plan review.
So moved?
Seconded?
Okay, so when I call your name, would you please indicate your assent? Pat
I
Norton?
just have a quick question.
Oh, sure.
Is that for the next meeting we are continuing it, or are we continuing it to a February meeting?
We are continuing it to a February meeting. Mark, should we continue it to a date certain in February?
You do have to do a date
Yes, we
certain.
do have to do
so
that. So we will continue it to,
Either
February-
the 3rd or the 24th, those are our
February
two
3rd or
dates.
the 24th.
I think probably the 24th is the safest. it gives everyone enough time, and if the engineering firm has some questions for you, you can respond, and hopefully then on the 24th, we can wrap it all up. So we will.
Madam Chairman, could I suggest maybe the 3rd, since they're a little bit anxious to get going on the project? Is the 24th?
We can always continue it on the
No.
3rd.
That's
If it-
Oh, wait, it's the 24th of February? or
Yes,
Jan-
24th of February.
That's a little late.
Yes,
3rd
and
of
then we can
February.
continue to the next meeting if we need to.
Yeah.
Right, that's fine, that's fine. Yes, thank you for that. We'll
Okay.
do that. So could someone revise the motion to continue this to our February 3rd meeting?
I want to revise it to continue this process to February 3rd.
And do I have a
Seconded.
second? Okay. So when I call your name, would you please indicate your assent? Pat Norton,
Pat Norton, aye?
Jonathan Poor,
Jonathan Poor, aye.
Bill Wheaton,
Bill Wheaton, aye.
Emil Dahlquist,
Emil Dahlquist, aye.
Darcy Dale,
Darcy Dale, aye.
Beth Herr,
Aye.
and Marnie Crouch, aye. We're set. See you on the 3rd, and hopefully our engineering firm will work expeditiously.
Great. I'm multitasking.
Do you have slides?
Nothing's changed with regards to
Do you have slides?
So we heard from Pat Norton.
I do have a hand, just a black and white hand. that I have to-
Yeah,
I didn't want to do it.
here's what I did.
So I got handouts of this.
I told her I would help.
This isn't within our purview, is it? Noise regulations?
Site,
That's actually
can't really rope.
select board, I think, ordinances, that's a good
Things
question.
like keeping the old trees.
Probably can't control it.
Right, I
We
think
can-
all we can do is make
It's
nice
an ordinance.
Direct a
suggestions.
suggestion.
Suggestions.
an ordinance.
And they, people are usually pretty good about it.
Maybe we could think about
They seem to be good.
doing that, you know, recommending.
Woman from across the marsh was helpful.
You know why
I
I
didn't
say that?
think the noise would
Because
be an
I've
issue.
walked by
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could
yeah.
understand
And
that,
the
especially,
school is leaf
yeah,
blowing.
as
and
like
There you're in this
the trees
bucolic
are
setting, and all
lost.
you hear are leaf blowers. And
we
on
know what
weekends,
Pat Norton's
you know,
doing.
excuse me, it's
Yeah.
like jet
It's
skis.
a
It's
scourge.
just, it's a scourge.
What do we have to do to
Sometimes
bribe
do
you?
better.
I told Marnie, no
I'm
second
a
meeting in
roaming.
December.
You know, do
We can't have a meeting, we only have one meeting in December, maybe you would stay.
It's worth asking the question, you know.
yeah, yeah.
This is a long time.
It'd be a really hard thing for them to mitigate.
Well, sometimes ban them, or have certain times, you know, that they can't, you know,
Yeah, go back to 7 o'clock in the morning
yeah, you know.
instead of 6.
I think there's, you have some negotiating power.
Ask, hey, Mark, quick question. Is there any- Is noise reduction a purview of the planning board? Or would that be,
It's not
in-
zoning per se.
it's not zoning, but is that
Noise and light would be
an ordinance? say?
It's a good
part of
question.
site plan review, don't you think?
You could.
We had it
so-
in the 133, yeah.
Yeah,
The town does have a noise bylaw, but it's kind of dicey because if there's a complaint, it typically goes to the police and it's, so the planning board as a sort of additional safety could have it be a requirement of your approval, and that way if there's an issue that the town can't resolve, it goes back to the planning board.
yeah, we might want to think about that, because this woman obviously was concerned about noise, but I know, walking in Pingree Woods and elsewhere, sometimes you're in this pristine environment. You can't see any buildings, and you hear leaf blowers. You know, just noise coming from somewhere. And obviously, I guess we can't ban the use of leaf blowers, although I think some communities may have done that.
Marblehead did.
What's that?
Marblehead did.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, gas leaf blowers.
Lawnmowers are okay, but somehow leaf blowers are not.
Well, leaf blowers are loud. They're loud. But, you know, we could, you know, curtail their use before a certain time and after a certain time, and maybe on weekends. Well, you know, it's the Pingree School was you know, using their leaf blowers in the fall. Like, every time I walked in Pingree Woods, there was just the roar of leaf blowers. It's like sort of defeats the purpose of open space. If it, anyhow, that's not the highest.
That was a side note.
That was a
Planning board in
side note.
Ipswich- The planning board in Ipswich had made me.
Pardon me?
The planning board in Ipswich had made me at one point in time do an ambient noise study and then monitor during the course of construction and operation to determine what our impact was based on the reference to ambient noise.
Do they have a noise bylaw?
That, I don't know.
Is there a butters over there?
But they certainly did restrict the hours of construction during the development, so that's something that you could.
But we did that 133, you know, we
Well, yeah, we had
Figured
noise
out
on
what-
133, that's it.
Yeah.
figured out what the ambient noise is typically on a road and what it would be with the equipment that was planned.
Yeah, because that's a state
Yeah.
requirement, that whatever percentage above.
Yeah.
Right, that was a state
Correct.
requirement, but the leaf blowers can, that's something that the town can address. Since we're roving a little bit off our zoning jurisdiction, the other thing is e-bikes. You know, because they shouldn't be on sidewalks, and they shouldn't be on trails where hikers and equestrians are. I mean, bicycles, as we know from Rosie Kennedy's accidents, pose their own risk, but e-bikes pose an even more enormous risk because they can go so, I mean, people
Right.
can go so fast. So, that's just neither here nor there, but it's something we could bring up with the select board individually. Anyhow, I had asked Mark to provide
Marty,
us.
Do we have to vote on this, or the cost estimate, or just?
I think that's within your purview, Mark. I don't think
I think it was clear from
Okay.
the discussion
Okay.
that
Sorry, Marty.
That's okay. So I asked Mark to provide everyone with section 4.2, the implementation charts from the master plan. And so we have an open agenda for 2026. So I thought we could have a discussion about what we would like to address and in, you know, the priority that we should give to some of the items on the, that are listed in the master plan. So I know we talked extensively last year about revising the GPOD. And so I think that is something that we should consider, but that, I believe, would require the engagement of a professional. Do you agree with that assessment?
Absolutely.
Right. So since that's something we've announced, and I think that if the GPOD is to have any meaning, it has to be revised, because it seems almost every project, the GPOD gets circumvented somehow, some way. It wouldn't happen with a single-family house necessarily, but it does happen with larger projects. So I remember there was someone here, was it, I don't know if it was Scott Mattern or someone, was talking about with all the innovations in septic systems, I mean, there should be a way of addressing this issue. So Mark, could you look into what our budget might be to engage a professional to give us advice on how we could amend the GPOD? And the whole bylaw wouldn't have to be amended, but there would have to be some type of carve-out, I would imagine, for an engineered system that wasn't just a leaching field.
So just to be sure I'm clear, so the idea would be to potentially amend that 80,000 square foot per dwelling lot requirement with something a little more specialized in terms of septic requirements and,
Right, if you met certain criteria.
oh, okay.
you know,
No,
if you were to.
There might be provision for sort of specialty alternative systems, could
Right.
change
Right.
criteria, package systems for smaller groups of houses. There's all different alternatives that aren't really covered in that bylaw. It's
Right.
just sort of a blanket square footage metric, so.
Yeah, the 80,000 could still apply, but there are alternatives.
Yeah.
For other types of
So
development.
we would think the 80,000 square feet.
Well, you might revisit-
Applies, but if you have this type of system,
Yeah.
then,
Yeah, it'd be more nuanced so that there's more flexibility,
right,
but with controls.
right,
But it needs to be all based in engineering.
right. Right.
Sorry, we closed the hearing on myopia, but did they fill out a stormwater form too? They have a site plan application, but did they fill out the form for stormwater management too? We have a form.
That was a good question. When the town created the stormwater regulations, at least as far as I can find, we never created a special application for stormwater. So I couldn't really make them fill out a form that hasn't been approved by the planning board.
Okay, I thought we did. There was a rules
I
and
thought we
regs.
did.
There was a rules and regs that at the back
Yeah,
end of it
there
includes a
was.
form you fill out, and you fill it out to say, I'm
Yeah.
disturbing this much land. It's
Yeah.
got no steep slopes. It's got all
Right, right, right.
the criteria.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Or maybe I don't have the current version, but,
Maybe we were taking a look.
yeah.
Yeah, there was an abbreviated and a regular
I mean, this
stormwater
isn't on the
management
edge of any criteria
Yeah.
that would
Right.
sway you one way or the other, but it's interesting information to have.
Yeah.
It
Right.
also shows you like what you're supposed to be submitting along
Yeah.
with the
Right,
application.
absolutely. And so they should fill that out.
Okay.
Sorry. I was just looking at the form.
So
that they filled
did you
for
want to pass around what you did, Emil?
Oh. Okay.
You want me to send out things?
Oh, do you mind?
No, I don't.
Okay. Sign from-
I need more steps.
No, it wasn't.
I have the color-coded one.
Here you go.
Thank you, Beth.
Two. Yeah.
Gonna be two there, too.
Hopefully, we got enough there. Great, you got one?
So I mentioned this, the section of the master plan to Emil and indicated to him that I wanted to have a discussion about what we should focus on this year. And obviously, the GPOD was one, I think there was consensus last year. But with respect to other matters, I thought we could have a discussion. So Emil, in his inimitable way, has highlighted all the things in section 4.2 that are within the purview of the planning board, and indicated whether they were a zoning amendment, design guidelines, things that we completed, and as well as some elements that require some vision. So we can go through these if you'd like.
Well, I just took the, where the planning board was deemed to be the leader and the actions, for particular actions. And so I just circled them in heavy lines that would be applicable. I did not consider any, any partnership with other boards and commissions or related elements and so forth. But it was just to see, just get an overview of what was asked of the planning board in the implementation plan. And then I thought it might be good just to categorize them by the particular type of task. And there was zoning amendment, and then there was design guidelines, and then what I just referred to as visioning, which is more of a long-term planning technique or process or task. So on page 94, 4.2.1, protect, this is regarding natural resources. I just say that this master plan is not really fully developed, and so a lot of these goals and actions could have been lumped together, could have been thought out at the time of its origin, I think, and kind of put together, organized in a little bit different manner, because there's some relatively small tasks, like 1C, amend the zoning bylaw to require developers to install and maintain shade trees. Well, that would be a zoning amendment, and we can put that, actually combine that with further actions by the planning board. So we can consolidate that, which I did in the second handout, which is the planning board 2026 project ideas. But just to go through what the master plan dictated, or not dictated, but recommended. 1D is a zoning amendment, amend the zoning bylaw to encourage environmentally responsible development by potentially offering incentives such as density bonus or expedited permitting to incorporate green infrastructure and low-impact development principles in new development and retrofitting of existing buildings or structures. So that would be a zoning amendment requirement. Then we jump to page 99, which is 4.2.3, grow, land use goal. 6A is actually, was substantially completed. This was a town center form-based code. I say substantially because, in my mind anyway, it's slightly incomplete because they never did the public realm coding. And they made it pretty clear at the outset that what they were doing is to write a code for private property, not public property. So they deliberately did not include that, even though they committed to doing it when they were selected. Anyway, this could be relatively easy anyway, but so when I say it's substantially completed, that's what I meant there. So that basically has been addressed largely. We just need to refine it now. 6B, in the event the Winthrop School is closed, either in the next few years or well into the future, explore how the site can be integrated with the Hamilton Town Center. And my thought would be to call that a visioning. We're not going to write a code for it. We're being asked in this to, because of the proximity of that site, the school site, and it's now a long-term thing, so there's no urgency obviously there.
Right.
But that is something that was in the master plan, the implementation plan. 6C is completed, adopt zoning to facilitate the reuse and redevelopment of the Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary site. That is completed. 6D is completed, assess requirements of the MBTA Communities Act, considering anticipated rulings by the Supreme Court, Judicial Court, and so forth. That's done. 6E is a zoning amendment, improve the effectiveness of open space and farmland preservation development bylaw and the estate overlay district provisions by exploring density and development by right options. We had talked about updating the estate overlay district, and then we had also, I know the planning board, just before I joined the planning board, had worked on a flexible zoning as a replacement for the open space farmland preservation development. I'm not that familiar with it, but I think the open space one.
I think it was also for the great estates, too. We're going to wrap them all up in one.
Yeah, and the rationale, the only thing I heard, and I apologize because I don't know a lot about it, was that this is not being used, so therefore it's probably not good. I would disagree.
I don't think we've had one petition for either of those two.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to look at why is that the case, because there are provisions of like conservation development in the open space that really are useful, and I think I'd hate to jettison that just because of developers not using it. Developers take kind of the easy path to do a project, what they're used to doing, and but yes, that was the rationale that I heard from from the board. But that was shelved just as I came on board, so I've really no knowledge of that.
Could I just interject at this point? I asked Mark to look at the number of estates that we actually have in Hamilton that would be subject to the estate overlay district. And we have that information now.
Nice.
And how many were there, Mark? 13? I mean, we included, the assessor's office did this, so it was based on acreage. So the Pingree School and the high school and Gordon Conwell and Myopia are included in it. But there are only about 13 estates that would fall within the estate overlay district. So it seems to me that we can learn a lot from the Browns Hill overlay district. And we have the potential to look at the open space and farmland preservation development bylaw, the estate overlay district, the Browns Hill overlay district, and what we had done with the flexible development bylaw, and sort of combine everything using Browns Hill kind of as a model. I think that it might work because we had the Retreat House and Pilgrim Hall as structures that we wanted to preserve. And so I thought that would be something that we could play with. And it would require some effort to pull it all together. But I don't think in the last analysis, it would be that difficult.
Marty, what was the threshold that you used to pull those properties? Was it
It was the threshold that's set forth in the estate overlay district.
the current version of what we have?
Yeah, the current version.
It'd be interesting to maybe look more broadly, like, if our criteria is 20 acres and it only is 10 properties, but if you change that to 15 acres and it had 40 properties, you know what I mean? Like, maybe there's reverse engineering the criteria to determine what's appropriate.
Exactly.
They had a
And I
Part
don't know what
A.
the square footage of house
Yeah.
or historic building is required within those 20 acres either, if anything.
I think the other thing is, are we, particularly with the estate bylaw, are we actually trying to preserve the estate, the house, the grand mansion, whatever it is? Or are we trying to, preserve the land, have some kind of cluster zoning to maintain a lot of open land? So one of those 13 estates have been, pretty good and clever about maintaining the land, but they took the estate and chopped it down.
Yeah.
So there are two objectives, I mean, sort of.
Well, the density bonuses that, I like the way Ipswich approached those with the series of density bonuses that could be done, provided you retain rehab the estate building and bring it back, whether in the same use or repurpose it to some other use, like multifamily housing maybe. But the idea being, to preserve as much as you can those estates. I think the Browns Hill was specific to that site. The metrics would obviously have to change, but I think there is a process you could.
Well, that's maybe the Ipswich one you're referring to is also called something different, and it puts emphasis on preservation of the estate.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
the GEPD, it's the Great Estate Preservation District. It's not an estate overlay district.
Yeah.
It's saying you're gonna put something over the estate.
Yeah.
It's saying you're preserving the estate.
Right.
They're calling it something different, putting different emphasis on it.
Yeah, I printed out Ipswich's open space preservation, cluster zoning, and then, you're right, it's called the Great Estate Preservation Development Bylaw.
Yep.
So, I don't know if it's feasible to combine these, but it might be. But just I'll read this for your edification. This is the applicability provision of the Estate Overlay District, and it says, a property in the Estate Overlay District is eligible for Part A special permit if it has a minimum lot size of 15 acres and is eligible for a Part B special permit if it has a minimum lot size of 20 acres. And then there's a method of calculating that. At least one of the lots, contiguous lots may be combined, provided that at least one of the lots contains an estate house of over 5,000 residential gross square feet of living area built before December 31st, 1950. The lots as combined have the required acreage, and the lots have been under common ownership prior to July 1st, 2010. And lots may be considered combined regardless of whether a private or public road dissects the parcels. Land restricted by conservation easement restrictions or wetlands will count toward the 15 acres and 20 acre thresholds. So what I was thinking is that you start with the open space and farmland preservation development bylaw, and then have another part designed to preserve buildings of historic significance.
Kind of merge those two?
Kind of merge them, because the open space and farmland preservation development sort of addresses the Part B of the Estate Overlay District. I haven't looked at how the mechanics of combining it, but I could give it a shot. I won't promise when I could get it done, and I'm not saying it would be ready for the annual town meeting, but if it comes together and the board likes the way it's shaping up, then maybe we could consider it in the fall or a year from now.
Yeah, I think it'd be great if, doing some work on it in advance, so that, to kind of pull it into shape somewhat, not fully defined, but
Yeah,
or
get
completed, but
it
just.
in some kind of format and then,
So you can see what
present
the-
it to you.
Right,
Because clearly, the open space and farmland development bylaw has to be, at a minimum, amended so that we don't have the ambiguities in 8.1.12 that we struggled with mightily in the 8.2 with respect to 133 Essex, if you remember.
Yes, so,
You, in particular, I think spoke for an hour.
yes. So, can I shift gears for just a moment?
Absolutely.
Back out. What could be interesting is to have a discussion about, we have an array of possible things that we could focus on. How would we as a board prioritize those things?
Right.
Because we can't do all of them.
Nope, we cannot.
And I guess a comment that I would make is I feel that this board has a unique set of complementary skills, and that's not always usual for the makeup of a board. And from my perspective, but it'd be interesting to discuss it, I think it would be interesting to prioritize according to, you have a strong board, a lot of skills. What would be the highest and best use of those skills, rather than what's the low-hanging fruit?
Right,
And so there's one question. It's
Right.
just a question.
because design guidelines are up there on my list,
So-
yep,
So there's one question.
yep.
And then another question is, some of these things sort of sit in isolation. Some of them would be better served clustered together. You know, some of these look like they're separate, but they're really the same subject. And
Yeah,
to Emil's
that's-
point, they
Yep.
should really be treated as a system, you know, a systematic kind of approach. Even to the point where downtown relates to the Winthrop School. And so that's of a piece, you know, downtown guidelines and Winthrop School visioning are related. So the question is, which things go together, which don't? And again, circle that back around to what's the highest and best use of the skills that we currently have on this board. So that would be the question I would pose, and then see if there's a way to look at this list and prioritize accordingly.
Well, I can say unequivocally that the design guidelines, we have an architect and a planner who, that's within their skill set. I'm just saying, I mean, it's not necessarily in mine. I mean, I have opinions as to the design guidelines that were developed by the HDC. I think they were pretty simplistic, putting colonial touches on everything. But
Maybe also
I throw it
interesting-
open to everybody.
I think the second paper project is really kind of a summary of all the things that I've heard so far. And I like, you're exactly right. We have to prioritize what gets attention first and so forth. And I know Marnie said at one of the last meetings, is there anything we can get done by the Springtown meeting? That's a bit of a rush, because it's got to be done probably end of March.
Yeah,
So that's not going to happen, I think. But anyway, prioritizing would just allow scheduling something in a better way. But
Another lens to put it through is what would be the most valuable to the town. Notice not just what skills, what tasks suit
Yeah.
the skills of the board, but
Right.
then what's the marriage of those opportunities to the highest and best value to the town? What's most,
Yeah, and
what's most urgent for the town?
And I wouldn't just stick with the implementation plan, because I think that.
I agree.
That's a
I
little
agree
weak.
100%. That's why I'm casting
Yeah.
a very broad net here.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the point I was gonna mention also, was maybe it's a good opportunity to engage the other committees and boards and
Yeah,
collectively
exactly.
agree on a focus, like maybe there's another.
That's really
board
useful,
Thinking
yeah.
about something else that is gonna get coming down the pike and
Yeah.
thrown at us, or challenges that the town is
Yeah.
interested in us tackling.
I would really support that approach to
Be a
to
nice
engage other
collaborative
boards, yeah.
Town manager, select
But-
board,
Yeah.
FinCom,
I mean, what's
committee.
really great is that this board has accomplished sort of three major tasks, which was 133 Essex and Gordon Conwell and downtown. And now there's nothing really big coming at us, so it's the opportunity to back up and look proactively big.
Yes.
And I like Pat's suggestion to engage other boards. I like the idea of making sure that we're cognizant of what the dynamic of the board can bring, and how do these things fit together in and of themselves in the implementation goals, and then what's missing in the implementation goals. Really look at it a big picture. Take a moment to reflect. Get our heads out of the trench, look big picture, and prioritize before we just dive back into a trench. That would be my thought.
Well, the goal again, I think here with this list, is to put what I know down, and then we can absorb it over time, and we can eliminate some, or add some, or change some. So it's a beginning, but there might be other, I'm sure, others that we could, tasks to go after. But that was the idea with
Yeah.
this, to organize it.
So what would be the best process, Pat, do you think, to engage other boards?
It's in the implementation plan.
Email from Marnie reaching out to the other boards. see if they're
Could you
doing something.
speak up, Pat?
Marnie reaching out to the other boards, maybe, and suggesting, maybe they're doing something similar, talking about what's the goals for this year, and,
I mean, it would be worth a joint meeting.
yeah,
With the select board. I know the select board's focused on the budget.
yep.
I mean,
But
that's
that
really
could-
what will occupy them until town meeting.
Yes.
So, and I mentioned to Rosie Kennedy about the implementation committee, because I had sent a letter to the select board asking them to form an implementation committee, and I believe I sent that at the beginning of last year, and I never heard back from anyone on the select board. But Rosie reported to me that the thinking was that, and I don't recall this at a meeting, that because it's so difficult to obtain volunteers to serve on committees, that having another committee would be almost futile, because it would be unlikely that people would volunteer their time for such a committee. So, and that may be true.
Right.
So I think that we could survey different boards and committees, but the master plan actually tasks some of the committees with doing things. So I'm not sure that some of the things that would be
I don't see the select board here.
addressed might not be things that the planning board is capable of actually executing, because we have to focus on.
But it might inform how we set priorities.
Yeah, well, my thinking is, let's set our own priorities, because we're going to do the work. So my question is, if, and I think this is important with respect to the town center, and we, so far, no activity whatsoever with respect to 3A or anything else. But it'd be helpful to get ahead of it, so we're not flat-footed if a project comes along and that we have no guidelines. And also, we talked about guidelines for ADUs, and apparently there's some in Boston and elsewhere that we probably could crib off for ADUs.
Yes, there's extensive ones in
Yes.
Boston.
Yes.
And again, I feel that those, even though they're not the same subject, they're really intertwined. The design
The town
guidelines for
center and
downtown, the town center guidelines and the ADU
Absolutely,
guidelines are all
absolutely.
intertwined.
Now, then the question I have is, developing those guidelines, is that something that the planning board can do? Or is it something that we would need professional expertise,
For what?
doing the design guidelines?
Oh, no, well,
Raise your hand if you want to.
Well,
Did we talk about a carry-on effort we talked about carry-on effort that we'd asked the town funding to execute with,
I think what we need, if
Till and
we're
those
going to write
guys.
it, we need a graphic designer to get that work done. All
There's a
the
variety
imaging.
of ways to approach it, though. I
But-
feel, go ahead.
But I think we can kind of flesh it out, in terms of what the content ought to be. For example, what I was suggesting in this was that there are really two levels of design guidelines. One is town-wide, the other is specific to town center. Now, the town-wide, this is mostly a residential town, single-family housing, so it would not apply to have design review there. But in cases like that we do come across, like multifamily housing in some location, that's where it would apply, I think. And anyway, but you have those two. One is more detailed, the town center more detailed than the other, but those would be the two levels of design guidelines.
I think there could be, in a sense, a tiered level of the effort. One would be to create the framework or the content of it, and then the next tier would be to, rather than reinvent the wheel graphically, I've had success going to other towns and getting written permission to borrow graphics from other folks' guidelines, and, with attribution. Or you could do that and then eventually segue into something that's really pulled together in a very professional way with an art director and a cohesive, consistent graphic style. But that's the heaviest lift.
Yeah.
But I don't think it needs to be all or nothing. There's three tiers.
So what you're suggesting is that we survey applicable communities and see what they've done,
Yeah.
cull the very best,
Draft your framework,
yeah.
and then you can decide how far you want to go with your graphics. It can be very slick and professional, with an art director and cohesive graphics, or it can be, get the content in there, and it might be a little bit a mix of styles. If you're going for, you produce some yourself, you get permission to reprint others with attribution, you get rights. So there's different ways to do it, I think, without having to have a big budget.
Well, Mark, I'm going to get you in trouble here. I mean, he produced some very nice graphics for the Browns Hill Overlay
Then
District.
we hire Mark.
Agreed.
Well, I'm just saying, that, to your point,
There's
it's
not-
not going to be shiny and have,
Right,
you know,
it can be.
binder and
Yeah,
whatnot.
it can be, but it doesn't
could.
have to be.
It doesn't
Oh,
have
it
to.
shouldn't be shiny or, corporate looking, I don't
Yes.
think, but anyway.
But it can be really cohesive,
Yeah.
but it takes more design effort.
Right.
And graphic design
Yeah.
effort to do that. So,
I think ADUs would be pretty easy to do in-house, just because there's so much out there. It's really
Yes.
just a matter of sort of putting it in all in one place.
Yeah.
So I think that is a pretty easy, the larger design guidelines we're going to do town center specific or, townwide that you might want to bring in.
what's interesting about the ADU guidelines that are out there, Boston does have a really exhaustive set of guidelines, is nobody has yet addressed the fact that ADUs are really kind of tight little programs, tight little puzzle pieces that have to fit into a puzzle piece space, usually somebody's backyard. And rather than creating sort of prescriptions, one-size-fits-all prescriptions, there may be a way that I haven't seen yet to create almost a questionnaire where you fill out a form or you answer some questions, and it guides you in a direction. It sort of sends you down the right path in the design guidelines. So it's not a one-size-fits-all set of decisions. It's a sort of you fill out the questionnaire, and it creates sort of a hierarchy of in a decision tree. So you get off on the right foot. And I haven't seen that. Like the Boston guidelines are just, here's an idea, here's an idea, here's an idea, and it doesn't really guide you through the
So you're
decision-making.
talking about, just start at the top. What is the size of your lot?
Yeah. Which way does it face? Where's south?
Yeah.
Which way do you enter it? Where's the long view? You answer a few questions. Do you,
Right.
How many bedrooms do you want? You just start filling it out, and then it can sort of guide you through, well, if you've answered these 20 questions, then it's sort of steering you in the direction of these priorities. I haven't really seen that, but I think it would be more useful. Like right now, Boston has put out a call for entry submissions for design competition for ADUs. Well, I had an intern come to me and say, let's enter that. And I said, a one-size-fits-all design for a million different unique backyards is not the answer. The answer is some sort of framework for process. So it made me think about the guidelines for ADUs. And I think it'd be worth culling what's out there, and you can really mine it, but I think it could be done a little better by having a few key questions that get asked and answered.
Well, so I think that the ADUs are they're more limited. We have ready access to some samples, if you will.
Sure.
You could do the questionnaire relatively easily, easier, because you just essentially provided
That's the first
a
5
little bit of a
questions, but there's
framework.
30 more behind that.
Pardon me?
That's the first 5 questions, but there's 30 more
Oh, yeah,
behind
yeah.
that.
I know, but I mean, you're on a roll. So that's something that we could probably do pretty quickly, because I think, Mark, you could cull them for our review. I think the much more difficult problem is for the town center. That's of
Yes.
course,
That's more complicated.
much more complicated.
Then you tie that into a Winthrop school vision, and you've got a fairly complex process.
Yeah, and careful with the Winthrop School. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
that's
hornet's nest.
a political hot potato.
Yeah, and right now, the Winthrop School looks like it will be in use, at least for the short term, yeah. And how would you go about thinking and even developing guidelines for the town center?
Well, I think,
On
again,
top of what we
Emil can
have.
talk about this, because Emil served for 20 years on
I know, and I've
on a-
seen his award-winning,
Yes, so he's the expert here. But again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's lots of documents and processes out there to look at and mine from. And plus, we have the expert. Just need to not make him do all the work. Guide it, but not do it.
I think, yeah, I think it's, I'll say this, a little easier than you might think to get it right. It's, how you structure it and how, what is the way you want to address the user of that? And, but using examples, and you can go online and actually look in any number of towns that have design guidelines and see what they did, and there's kind of a uniformity of topics that you need to address at a minimum. And we can decide, a small town like this is not as complicated as Boston, obviously. But I think the first thing is, I think you do it incrementally. The first thing is to come up with a framework of what are the topics you really do want to address, at a minimum. Again, I think signage ought to be put into this. I know Mark had commented that signage ought to be reevaluated. And that's a critical thing in town center. And I think what we have now is really insufficient. Even what UTL did is insufficient. But just at a minimum, it's, site and landscape design, it's architecture, and it's signage. Those three things, and under each one of those, there are any number of subheadings that, we can go through and pick out.
There was a lot of work that was done but not used in the form-based code process with UTIL, so you could mine some of that. You can also review the form-based code as it stands and look for gaps. There's look at the form-based code not for ideas, but for where are things missing.
But what I would do is just draft the whole thing in text only, and as a working document, and not spend a lot of time on graphics but then go through it with the board, let the planning board figure out what it is that they would like or not like to include in this, and then you start to do the detail on each of the individual sections, decide what the message is and what's an appropriate graphic for that. So that's when you start to develop it in more detail.
The other first step would be to take the implementation items and see if they can be recrafted into something more cohesive instead of disparate goals. Start putting them together, like you mentioned, the street trees. With design guidelines.
Yeah, a couple of these in the implementation plan would just be folded into the design guidelines. That's how you would complete it, and it would all be advisory. And none of this is regulatory.
Right.
I guess that's an assumption.
And it is best, I think, when something's advisory, is the more graphic it is, the more likely it is to be used, because you can just look at it and use it as an idea board rather than wading through a lot of dense words. A developer is more likely going to absorb it, understand it, and incorporate it in hopes for success.
It was my experience that if you put something on a table like that, a developer coming into town with a project is going to look at it first and go through it. And then at least the developer knows what kind of questions he's going to get going into a design review meeting. And for the most part, because they all want approvals, they're going to do what they can to kind of address or at least, because nobody wants to get rejected by a board, even though it's not regulatory. So, we would, ideally, there should be a separate board, not just the planning board to do this, but there's.
Right, but again, to Marty's point, how do you man it? How do you
No.
Right.
Populate it?
Right.
So, but I agree that the first step is you put it all in words, but then the mission is to turn those words into graphics or graphically friendly words or graphically friendly tables so that you can, again, absorb it quickly without a lot of deep reading or explanation. And again, that's going to have greater likelihood.
This to me is kind of a long-term project. I think a priority should be given to, frankly, getting familiar with the town center code. We as a board, if we get a project in that has to deal with it, I think, we'd asked Mark to contact Joe on getting UTIL back for one session. I'm not sure we really, I don't know if there's been anything on that, but.
I have talked to, I
Matt?
admit I put it aside a little bit because we were a little
Yeah.
preoccupied with Browns Hill, but I did talk to UTIL about it, and they're very willing to do it. It's a matter of sort of getting a cost estimate, and I talked to Joe about funding, and he said he thinks he can find the funding if it's within a certain amount, so.
I just think one session with them to go through the details of, how do you administer the code effectively? And
So I'd really like to hear from other board members about
Yeah.
what they feel about priorities, though.
Well, I think as a practical matter, though, that some board members have to spearhead certain efforts. And so it's really, it falls on the design team that we have here to move forward with that. I mean, I could give it a shot, but I don't have I just don't have I would be starting from scratch.
Yeah.
In terms of
Yeah.
searching different towns for their design guidelines. So you probably have looked at some, and you know which towns have good ones and bad ones, and I would just be looking, maybe Lexington, I don't know, it would be a Google search for me. I personally, can fool around with the bylaws, in the comfort of my office, just cutting and pasting. I mean, that is something that I feel very comfortable with. And those two things can proceed on dual tracks. And then come back to the full board with ideas. And then, to the extent you want to grab people to help with different tasks, then I think that should happen. But I think you're right. We need to get UTIL in here and figure out how this is all going to work.
Because writing a design guidelines for a form-based code is what the challenge is. We're already a step ahead of some other town that just wants to do a design guidelines, because we've
Oh, we've
addressed,
got our setbacks.
we've got
and-
setbacks, massing,
Yeah.
it's got roof details.
Right.
And we already have significant information, but there are a lot of the little details that are missing from their work. And it's not that we want to really define everything down to the last. We do want, I'm really sensitive to allowing for a lot of creativity, but you have to establish really the boundaries, I think. And
A great set of design guidelines even encourages, with thoughtfulness, breaking all the rules in the design guidelines.
yeah,
So that's,
Yeah.
That's what, a good set of design guidelines,
well, constraints can actually be sources of inspiration,
Right.
actually. And
that too. And also, if somebody comes in and wants to do something really dramatically different, but they see the whys of the design guidelines, it gives them, something to respond to. So the idea is not to be prescriptive in style in any way, shape, or form. It's really just about
Yeah.
creating streetscapes and environments that are consistent with, with what Hamilton values. But
And I
it's
think
not
the
about style.
Materials are important in that regard.
Yeah, but they don't have to be dictated or prescribed.
Right.
So, but again, I'd be curious, this is just a few people talking, I'd be curious if other board members support this, this set of priorities, or is there something different that we should be working on? Because it's, we need everybody's support in whatever we embark on.
I'd be in favor of looking at the town zoning map. There's another topic we had a lot of interesting, like the recent work last year, but then now Greenbelt have come up with, the funding required to purchase tobacco. There's gonna be, I don't know, I guess that's just mechanics of updating a map, and maybe there's not a lot of creative freedom for us there, but I don't know. We had there's a downtown district, related to the guidelines and what our overlay district represents, but I don't know if the map has caught up with all the, it might be interesting to refer back to the map at some point.
I think the map has caught up, hasn't it?
Has it?
Yeah, it's in process, because we just changed with
Yeah.
Browns Hill, so
That's not happened yet, but,
updating the map to
Okay.
show all of the I agree, that would be nice to have, all the town center districts and
Yeah,
perhaps so
one map.
we will have that, we're required to have that, so.
Yeah, okay.
So will the map have the 3A?
Yep.
Yeah?
Okay.
So,
right.
so what do other members think of our priorities?
Well, how many do you want?
Well,
You can't have too many, but from what I'm hearing, it sounds like eventually there will be a downtown project, so we probably should start with design review or the design guidelines, because that could happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we really don't have anything. And from what I heard, the GPOD rewrite sounds really important too.
right?
And estates preservation.
Right.
Because some estate can come up at any time too, especially with the economy changing.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe those three things
Right.
are enough to start.
Yeah, I'm not sure that how many applications we're gonna get on accessory bylaw units. When you have a town that has a lot of, post-war, single-family, half-acre, quarter-acre houses, squeezing in an accessory unit is really difficult. It's not like you have a back that you can add a wing onto or something that fits with the house. It's very, very difficult. And on the one hand, that makes me think, gee, we really ought to head this off at the pass and have some pretty strict design guidelines. How do you take a 3,000 square foot house on a quarter acre and add, an extra living unit onto it? That's really difficult, and have it not look like it's an outhouse or a garage or make some sense out of it. And so if I thought there was a swell of interest in doing that, lots of people have, grandparents or parents they want to bring in and so on, then I would say that would be a very high priority, but I'm not sure that there's actually a crying out need for that.
Well, you'd be surprised. There are 2 ADUs in Woodland Mead alone.
Mark,
In Woodland Mead?
Yeah.
pulled
And so,
When did they do them?
I believe so. I'm not sure
They
how
both-
many since the
they both-
change to the bylaw, but I think there's been at least a couple.
yeah, we'd have to ask the building.
Well, then I backtrack that and say we ought to go lickety-split and think about,
Well, that's also, we have access to sample ADU guidelines. So in terms of putting that together, that's not anywhere near as complex as doing the town center. So I think that that's something that is pretty straightforward, but the town center, I think the first thing we need to do is get UTIL back in here and maybe, have a discussion with them and maybe they could even have access to some, you have your work product from Simsbury, but they might even have access to some that they could bring with them for our benefit. So it would be helpful to get UTIL before the planning board as soon as possible. Okay? That's my thinking. And then also, the planning board's spending money. This is going to make Joe happy. We need to think about the GPOD and
yes.
what, I would think that there's only the one provision with the 80,000 square feet requirement that then just has to have caveats attached to it. This section's not applicable if you have this kind of system, right?
Yes, but that has to be specified out by an engineer, not by us.
Exactly. But, I mean, the rest of the bylaw doesn't have to be
No, it doesn't have to
thrown
be
out.
revamped,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no.
So although that requires expertise and a knowledge base that I frankly don't have, I think it's straightforward. And, I think David Smith from the Board of Health would be happy to work with the planning board on this very topic. I mean, if we did get an engineer or whatever, given that he's responsible for septic systems and whatnot, he would have, something to say, and he could potentially help us with these kinds of things. So I think that's doable, assuming that we have a budget. And I have so little knowledge of this. Is it common knowledge what systems are out there that would work in the GPOD? Does anyone know off the top of their head?
Well, any septic engineer will understand the different types of systems, and so we don't need a specialty consultant. We just need a sanitary engineer to
Right.
help us with it.
But I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I know they're tight tanks, and I know they're leaching
Right.
fields. Full stop.
Yeah.
And then in terms of playing around with the estate overlay district and all of that I don't think, as a practical matter, needs to be on a fast track, because we'll never get it to town meeting in April, but I can play with it in my free time because I'm retired. So I can just play with it, and then when it's in some kind of format, I can provide you with, some ideas. But I really think Browns Hill is a nice format, because when we had the tables, that could work in a consolidated, bylaw. I mean, we could have the density bonus if you provide conservation, this, that, and the other. We could, again, it's just an idea
in fact,
stage, but it could work and maybe be usable.
The only thing the only experience we've had, or only market we've had for this is the senior housing cluster bylaw.
Right,
And we only have, how many applications do we have for that?
3.
3?
Yeah, a handful, 3 or 4.
Well, we had 133, Essex, Canterbrook, and Patton Ridge.
None of which were really cluster housing.
Right.
Well, it is, it is,
Yeah.
it is. And, I think that's a viable, that's the one overlay bylaw that suggests there's a big interest in cluster housing.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, I wonder, some of these estates, I mean, I don't know all the people who own these estates, but I don't know whether they have heirs that are willing to maintain these properties. I mean, 5,000 square feet, historic type home, I don't know. What?
I said with no insulation.
Well, the other thing is, some of them,
But I mean, there's the potential. Some of the owners are not young, so
yeah, but
that
some of them,
are
I
in
mean, there's a couple
conservation land.
of the 13, there's, 3 or 4 that are stone structures that could serve as the bedrock for, almost any kind of commercial development. But there's also a bunch of them that are, run-down, ramshackle, 5,000 square foot houses that nobody wants to put the money into.
Yeah.
The Bridge Street thing was very interesting. Everybody know about that?
Is that the Clark
Gardner
estate?
property. That's 150 acres with a 1910, depending on your perspective, charming colonial, it wasn't even colonial, it was charming, I don't know what kind of house it was, 1910 house. And without any encouragement, most of the land was preserved. And there were 2 lots on Bridge Street, and the gatehouse was separated off. But there was like 120 acres behind, which was all preserved. And then the main house, this 1910 house, everybody was saying, oh, it'll be preserved, it's a charming house, on 5 acres, some amount of land to give it a lot of privacy. Some guy came in and paid $2 million for it, and it's on the slaughter block.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't even, I don't think I think they have to wait a year for the historic demolition bylaw because of
Which house is this?
I'm not
Which
sure
house
if
is
I know
this?
which it.
the Gardner House on Bridge Street.
Brick
Is that the
building?
No, 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 it's a yellow, you can barely see it from the road,
Oh.
yellow. It has a gatehouse, it's at the dip,
Oh, yeah,
at the dip.
with
It's a
the.
gatehouse, and you go back up and in, and there's a 7,000 square foot, house that you think is charming, but it's just got every single thing possible wrong with it. And somebody's paid $2 million for that, just to get the 7 acres and the nice site.
Is it developable?
Even,
7 acres?
one unit. They're tearing down the 7,000 square foot, they're gonna build a new 7,000 square foot.
And the Historic District Commission,
They didn't have any jurisdiction on it.
they could have done the 1-year delay, but they opted not to.
They opted not to, because the owner was very well-meaning, was gonna save some of the fixtures in the house and build the nicest house you could possibly imagine. And,
Yeah.
the house that was there, it was beyond repair.
Yeah.
It didn't look like it. You could drive up to it and think, this is a charming, lovely house. But in fact,
Is 13 Essex on your list of estates?
Okay, 35 acres,
Let me check.
30 acres.
13 Essex,
Because that's an Olmsted property.
Yes.
where, 13 is where?
It's near the town line.
Town line with-
Larch Row and Essex Street.
13
No,
Essex?
Essex Street,
Yeah, row 19,
right? Right
Yes, it
there,
is.
it's like the
Yep, there it is.
first
It
house
is.
How many
right,
acres is that?
first driveway.
31.62.
Yeah. So that's a, like I
you say
say, that's
13 Essex?
that's an Olmsted designed landscape and an estate house.
English country house. And it's very special.
So I don't know if you did an estate overlay district, whether you'd have any provision
No, it's
for,
not, no, it's not really on a hill.
historic landscapes.
There are a fair amount of homes that are on like 12-acre properties that would otherwise meet the criteria, so we were to loosen the acreage requirements, I think that would add quite a few properties in Hamilton.
And the assessor can pull this easily, so if we were to just hypothetically change this. Because there are large properties, but they don't have old houses on them.
Oh, 13 right there.
Well, an estate is an estate.
Anyhow, we have a plan. It's, even though we had nothing pressing on our agenda, we're still approaching 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Planning board
Shall I
likes
make
to
a
talk.
motion?
Well, we have a plan, and so at our next meeting, Mark, I think if you report, and if any of us have, ideas or want to try and talk to me about amending the bylaw or talking to Emil and
So
Jonathan about.
do we think for the next
guidelines.
meeting, we can actually get an engineering study on the stormwater bylaw for myopia? No.
Not for January 27th. We would continue it to the following week, which is February 3rd,
That's like 3 weeks away.
3 weeks away.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we won't be here,
They do want to break ground soon.
Yep.
we're not going to be able to meet here again until March? Is that the plan?
Until March,
How about the 27th? Are we here on the 27th?
here on the 27th, no. To
So what
be,
this-
I will update you where it is. I'm trying to get the community house, 'cause it's a little roomier.
And will there be Zoom options? Because I won't be available on the 27th or the 3rd in person. Do you know?
Yes, there will be
Okay.
a Zoom option. Just not sure about the venue yet.
Okay, that's fine.
Another meeting is February.
So yes, I think we need that motion.
Third and
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yes.
Darcy?
So when I call your name, would you please indicate that you assent to this motion? Pat Norton,
Pat Norton, aye.
Jonathan Poor,
Jonathan Poor, aye?
Bill Wheaton,
Bill Wheaton, aye.
Emil Dahlquist,
Emil Dahlquist, aye.
Darcy Dale,
Darcy Dale, aye.
Beth Herr,
Aye.
Marnie Crouch, aye.
So
Thanks, Matt.
two,